welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Nadine, and welcome back to a brand new video. So if you're new here and you don't know what I do or what I'm about, I do all kinds of videos on my channel. I do midwifery related videos, I do some vlogging here and there, I do some fashion, some beauty, some challenges, just all kinds of videos on my channel. So if you're interested in that, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join my YouTube family. For all my returning subscribers, thank you guys for sticking by me and choosing to be part of my YouTube family. So yeah, this video is basically for all my students that have now qualified, you have your NMC pin and you're looking for a job. So I'll be talking to you guys about how to find a job, the application process, what you have to include in the application, the process of preparing for your interview once you get an interview, what the interview entails, the assessments on the interview day, what happens after your interview, and all of that good stuff. So if you're interested, stay tuned and let's get into this video. So by now you're probably finished and you're qualified, you have your NMC pin and you're looking to start work straight away. So as a newly qualified midwife, you can there's two options you could do. You could either stay where you trained and they could offer you a job, or you apply internally, or you go and apply somewhere else where you haven't trained. For me, I didn't apply where I trained. I decided to move and start afresh somewhere that the hospital was closer to me, because where I trained, it was a 2-hour journey there and a 2-hour journey back. So I was like, I can't be doing this forever. So once I, finished my training, qualified, I was like, yeah, it's been a pleasure, but I need to find somewhere that's close enough for home that will make more sense. So yeah, so you could either apply to the one you trained, so you can just talk to the managers if they have any posts, if they're recruiting, band 5 midwives, or you could go on the NHS website, which is where I found my job, NHS website, and they have their recruitment, what jobs are available, what's out there. You can have a look there. Or you could actually go on each individual hospital and look at their careers page, their recruitment page, and see if they put anything out there that they haven't put out on the NHS jobs website. So you can do those three. Those are the three options. So where you trained, NHS jobs, or the individual hospitals that you kind of looking for and that you want to go to. So once you've picked the place that you want to apply to, you've seen the job advert, you go onto their application and you see what is actually required. So there's this thing, when I applied through NHS jobs, there was like a trace or a track system where they have your application saved if you have applied through them before, if you've submitted something similar to the job you're applying for. They have your application that you have saved and that you've used before with all your information, like your name, date of birth, address, contact details. So you just kind of log in and then you kind of amend it to the new job that you're applying to. If you don't have that, then you just make a new account. So you follow through to the NHS jobs, make an account, you start filling in your details, you start filling in your name, date of birth, your address, contact details, and then it goes down to your PIN. You start filling in your PIN if you have your PIN by then. If you didn't have your PIN by then, you just leave that blank. If you're in the process of getting your PIN and you're waiting for your PIN, so you can actually complete the application if you actually don't have a PIN. I applied for my post before I even got my PIN, so I submitted my NMC PIN form. But when the advert came out for the job, I just applied for it. I know I didn't have my PIN, but we were okay to kind of apply for it and kind of wait until our PIN comes in. So yeah, so you just fill in your details. Everything has to be concise. Everything has to be correct information. If they're asking you about contact details, if they're asking you about your address, if they're asking you about your name, if they're asking you about any references, anyone that's doing your reference, make sure everything is correct, including their contact details, how they can get hold of them. Everything has to be literally correct and concise while you're filling in the application form. So the part where you have to fill in your personal statement, I suggest that it's not even a personal statement, it's like a supporting statement or a personal statement, a CV, but normally it just says supporting statement or CV. It doesn't even say personal statement. So when you're filling in your supporting statement / CV, make sure it goes with the job that you are applying for. Don't make it general, adapt it to the actual post that you are applying for. Include things like that trust, you know, values, include your personal values, read the job description, include some of the things that they are looking for into your personal statement. I keep saying personal statement, your supporting statement, include some of that, you know, the roles that they're looking for, make it, you know, tailor it to yourself. So for example, if they're looking for a committed person that's good at communication skills, that's hardworking, tailor it to yourself and kind of make it personal to you and be like, you know, I have this skill, I have this ability, you know, and then apply it to the trust values that they have. So go on the website of that trust, look at their trust values, read through the job description, look at what they're looking for, you know, just make sure you do a thorough research of that trust before you start writing, you know, your CV or supporting statements, because it really helps if you tailor it to the trust, to the job description, to you as a person, making yourself stand out, putting yourself out there. The more concise and the more on target your statement is, the better chance you have to be shortlisted and be invited for an interview. So another thing that I will suggest when filling out your application form is make sure you fill out every single section. Try and not leave any section blank. Try and fill out as much of the application form as you can. If you miss things out here and there, they're just going to be like, so why hasn't she filled this out, you know, why is this not filled in? And these questions or these sections on the application form are there for a reason. So if you leave them blank, they're just going to be like, okay, well, did she not bother, you know, filling out this application form, or you know, what's the deal here? So if you want to be shortlisted, fill out as much of the application form as you can. Make sure that your supporting statement includes as much of your personal qualities as you can fill in. So include all your personal qualities, you know, if you are, you know, hardworking, if you're committed, if you are good at communicating, if you're good at working in a team, if you're good at working with different people, just make sure you include that within your supporting statement, so that they can have a feel of who you are, what kind of qualities you have, see if you are suitable for the role and the kind of midwife that they're looking for. In your personal statement, you also need to articulate that you are motivated, you are committed, you want to be part of the team, you want to be, you know, part of the trust, you want to develop your skills and develop your career at that trust. Just make it seem like you're so motivated, so career driven, you know, you want to get involved, you want to be part of that team. Just make it seem that you are, you know, you're so motivated to join them and become, you know, a midwife at that trust and become one of their team. So they are looking for people that are really like motivated, that just want to get involved, that want to be part of their team, that are very committed. That is the main things that they are looking for. So make sure you include that when you are writing your supporting statement. Also, before applying or filling out any applications, if you have a hospital in mind that you wish to work at or that you wish to apply to, if you can, I'm not saying this is a must, but if you can, make an informal visit to that trust, see what their hospital is like, see what the department is like. I know obviously right now it's COVID, visiting restrictions imply, but if you are able to, go and visit the hospital, talk to the people that work there, you know, go to the ward, see the lay ward if you can, go to and speak to the receptionist, so that when you're writing your personal statement and you mention that the atmosphere of your unit, it's so motivating, it's so warm, the people are, you know, amazing. You want to be part of that kind of warm environment. You want to be part of that, you know, team. You want to be part of that learning environment. You have a very good, you know, learning team, education team, all of that. So if they see in your supporting statement that you've actually took the time out and went to actually visit the trust, it actually adds on and it makes your application look that much better, and you know, you're more likely to be shortlisted and be invited to an interview. Just to summarize before we move on to the next point, so when you're filling out the application form, include and make sure you read the job description and the trust values. Anything that you can find out about the hospital, read it, understand it, so that when you're writing your supporting statement, you include the trust values, you include your personal qualities, you include your reasons why you want to work there, you include, you know, the atmosphere of the place if you have made a visit, what you know think about the hospital, what you yourself can bring to the trust, what you have to offer. You can also bring your experiences as a student, and also what you experience outside of being a student. One thing I can say is there's no point of you saying I delivered 40 babies in your supporting statements, because they know that already. It's part of your course to qualify. If you can't qualify unless you've completed and you've done your 40 births. So for you to say that in your supporting statement, they're going to be like, yeah, I know, you wouldn't have qualified without that. Tell us something different, something that we don't already know. So don't add in things that they already know that you needed to do as a student, like adding, you know, your 40 births, or you can take bloods, or you can do a booking. Just try and say something different, something you've managed to do outside work that is tailored to the job that you're applying for. And yeah, keep it concise. Make sure everything that you're filling into your application is correct and accurate. Make sure the numbers are correct, your email is correct. If they can't get to you, then they can't get to you. Make sure your references, you have references, and their details that you filled in are also correct, that they are able to contact your reference people. So yeah, just make sure everything is literally correct, concise, straight to the point, and tailor it to the trust that you are applying for. Also, make sure you speak on your strengths, your goals, your achievements, where you would like to go in your career, where you see yourself, you know, as part of their team. You know, just talk about you and how you have achieved certain things, either as a student, outside of, you know, being a student. Just make sure you stand out. Try and let your personality and you as a person shine through your supporting statement. So this next part is, once you get that email or that phone call about an interview, if you have been shortlisted for an interview, you are literally excited. It's the best feeling ever once you get there. So the interview process. So the interview process, you normally receive an email with a notification that you have been invited over for an interview. So in that email, you need to make sure that you read every single thing in that email, word by word, every single line, everything. If they attached things, if they sent you other emails after the offer, make sure you read everything. Check your junk mail to see if there's anything went into junk mail. You don't want to miss out on an interview opportunity just because you hadn't looked in your junk mail and you went in your junk mail, or you haven't read, you know, the details of that interview in that email. So read through that interview email, the time, the date, literally write it in your diary straight away, how they'll assess you, what you need to bring, where you need to go. Literally read it and start to prepare yourself for that interview. So what I would say about the interview process is, before the interview, you need to prepare yourself. You need to gather everything you can that will help you in your interview. If you're looking for articles, find your articles. If it's revision paper for your maths and English, find them and start preparing for them. If you are looking for possible questions that they may ask you, find them and start reading through it and start practicing. So preparation for an interview is key. You don't want to go to that interview not prepared, because that will just look so bad, and it's very likely that they will not take you seriously enough. So they even might ask you, what have you done to prepare for this interview? Have you looked at our trust values? Have you had a look around our hospital, if that's a thing that you're able to do, you know, post COVID, or you know, stuff like that. Yeah, so they may ask you, what have you done to prepare? Have you read any articles? Have you gone on our website and looked at the job description? You know, they may ask you stuff like, have you read the job description, and can you name one thing that we are looking for? So make sure you are 110% prepared for this interview. Gather as much information as you can. Make like an interview folder. That's what I did when I got the interview. I literally made a folder for everything that I needed to read through for my interview, and I just kept the folder together. Wherever I went, I had my folder, if it was possible to take my folder with me, and literally everything was in one place, and I was prepared. And on the day of my interview, I took that whole folder with me, so that when I'm waiting around, I could just be flicking through, reading through articles, just, you know, kind of reminding myself of certain things to say, you know, certain questions that they may ask me. So yeah, just stay on top of it, get yourself organized, get yourself, you know, articles, get yourself some revision papers, write things down, read the interview email, read the job description and what they're looking for, read the trust values. Just prepare yourself. You know, candidates that are not prepared, that literally have, you know, come to an interview with nothing in their mind, nothing to say, were not expecting to be asked certain things, you know, they just look like they have a lack of commitment, and that is something that you don't want to, you know, show when you are applying for a job. You need to show that you are commitment. So you need to be there prepared, make sure that you've read through every single thing, so that when they ask you something, you're not just like, oh, I don't know. You know, there's going to be things you don't know, and it's fine, but going there and not knowing like the trust values, that's just something that you could find on Google if you look up the hospital. That's just so simple, and that's something that they always ask in an interview. Well, most of the time, that's something they ask about, their trust values and how it's incorporated and stuff like that. So other ways you can prepare for your interview is ask someone to ask you questions. Do like an informal interview with you or your sister, you and your mom, you and your partner. Write a few questions down and get them to ask you those questions and see how well you answer them. Just something like that. Get practicing with the questions, and then, you know, when you get into doing the real thing, it's just like you've done it before. You know, the answers will just be running smoothly, and there's no like hesitation, and you're not, you know, put on the spot and you're like, oh, I wasn't prepared for this. So yeah, one thing I would suggest is, you know, get someone to help you with answering questions, and do like a mock test or like a mock interview with someone at home, a friend, anyone you could find. So the actual interview date. So the interviews that I have been to, I've been to 2 before I actually got my job. So I had one face-to-face interview and assessment day, and then I had a Zoom interview, which is the job that I have now. So the jobs that you need to go there and actually see them face-to-face, sometimes they may do their assessments first, which is your maths and English, and then they give you the interview with all the other assessments, you know, face-to-face. So what I would say, on the day of your interview, make sure you bring a copy of your either CV or supporting statement. Bring a copy of that. Also, make sure you know where you're going. Make sure you arrive on time. Make sure you are dressed professionally. I know it says smart casual or casual, but no, just go there looking professional, looking smart. Make sure you're neat, you're tidy, hair tied back, no nail polish, no heavy makeup. Don't go there with like mud on your shoes or yeah, ripped jeans, all of that. Just go there looking smart, prepared, professional to be interviewed. So I'll just basically talk about the interview that I went to. So I arrived with, you know, all my things, all my revision stuff, and I was, you know, reading it en route. When I arrived, we kind of sat in an area until it was, you know, 9 o'clock. And then you were called out, and then they basically got us all together in a room, and they handed out a maths and English paper. So we had to do a maths and English exam. In the email that I got, they only specified that we were going to do a maths paper. So when I got there and they handed us an English paper, I was like, oh my god, I did not know this. So don't be like me, guys. Do not be like me. I was just prepared for my maths. I had no idea that they were going to do an English paper, because the email only specified a maths assessment. That's all they said in the email. So I only revised my maths. But yeah, I got there and I literally sat down and I looked at the English paper and I was like, Lord. But yeah, so we did our maths, which was basic drug calculations. They asked you about, you know, convert this fraction into this, or what, you know the basic ones, you know, conversion, drug calculation paper. So that was no problem. And then the English paper, they were basically scenario questions. They had like 20 scenario questions, and you had to do both the maths and English in an hour. And I was like, how am I going to do this in 30 minutes? How? I wasn't even prepared for this. So the maths paper was basically stuff like, what does the NICE guideline say about, you know, auscultation in the second stage? How often do you auscultate the fetal heart in the second stage of labor? That was literally one of the questions. Another question would be like, you know, you have a woman and she has disclosed that she has FGM. What is your management, or what do you do when a woman discloses that she has FGM? Something like that. Another question was, what else would there was just some random stuff like, it was just basically like scenario questions about midwifery. So it wasn't like anything out of the ordinary. Like it's things that we kind of know already, that we should know already now that, you know, we've finished our degree. But it was the time that was not on my side, because obviously I had spent some time doing my maths, and then my English was like 20 questions. So what I would suggest, if you get an email and they don't specify whether you're even doing a maths and English, I think you should still revise for a possible maths test. Definitely revise for a maths test, because that will, you know, 99% you will get a maths test if you're going to a face-to-face interview. As for the English, I was not prepared for it because it didn't specify in my email, but had I don't know, spider senses, I would definitely have revised for my English. But that's just, it's a hard one, because you don't know what to revise for if they don't give you that material. So I don't know, just read around your NICE guidelines, just remind yourself on all the things that you learned in your 3 years or 18 months of being a student. Just read over the NICE guidelines, what we do during labor, what we do postnatally, what we do antenatally. Just read through and kind of get the gist of things, just in case they throw at you an English paper and you kind of just have to do it. So after the maths and English assessment, they called us back out into the waiting room, and then they called us name by name individually after they finished marking it. So they send us out, they gather all the papers, and then they mark it there and then. So it's basically the same as applying to become a student midwife. So they mark the papers there and then they tell us to wait outside, and then they call us one by one. So when they call us one by one, we go there, they have your paper in hand, and they basically tell you whether you've passed or failed. And then if you failed, you literally go home from there. You don't continue and you don't get an interview. And if you have passed, you are told to wait in another room and wait until they've kind of filtered everyone out so you can get like an interview. So once you have passed your maths and English, you then move on to the interview process. So they sit you down and you are, you know, being interviewed by either two or three people, and it's just you, and then they start asking you questions. They may even have your test paper, you know, in hand, and then they may go through the test paper first and tell you what you did well, where you didn't do well, and all of that jazz. So after they've gone through your test papers with you, they then ask you, you know, some scenarios. So in the interviews, they normally give you some birth emergency scenarios and how you will handle or manage a birth emergency. So they may give you like a shoulder dystocia scenario, a breech scenario, PPH scenario, and you literally have to sit there or demonstrate. They might even have like a kind of a stimulation station where you have to actually do what you will do in that emergency, how you will manage that emergency. So you either talk through it or demonstrate. So you say how you will, you will identify the emergency just as you would have done in an OSCE if you did an OSCE as a student. So you identify the emergency, you say and do everything you would do to manage the emergency, including communicating with the team, how you will work well within the team, if there's any medication, how you would give that medication, and all the necessary things. You have to articulate that. After you've done that and you've passed that section, they'll then move on to another scenario. So the next scenario is like a CTG scenario. They'll give you a CTG and then they'll give you a scenario. They'll be like, I don't know, this woman is on a CTG because of X, Y, and Z. She has X, Y, and Z. It's just basically a scenario, and you have to literally look at the CTG and kind of read the CTG. How would you read the CTG? And then what is your plan? What is your management with all the information that they've given you? So you have to kind of articulate this to them, and once you've done that, then you move over to like the formal part of the interview, where they ask you about about your skills, why you want to come to work at a hospital, what you can bring to the trust. They might even have your supporting statement right there in front of you, and then they'll be like, okay, you said this in your statement, could you elaborate or could you explain this further? They might even say stuff like, have you read anything in the news that has anything to do with midwifery at the moment? Is there any research that's out there that's caught your eye? Is there something specific about midwifery that you love and enjoy? So that's the part where they're trying to gain like some sort of understanding of who you are as a person. They're trying to know you, they're trying to see if you're fit for the role, they're trying to see how you articulate yourself, they're trying to see how well you answer these questions. So that part you just do, and then you go home and then you wait to see whether you've got the job offer or not. So that is the face-to-face interview, and that's how the process normally goes. It takes about I was there from like 9, and it could take about up until like 2, 3. It could take you literally most of your morning until early afternoon, so you'll be there for ages. But yeah, that is literally the face-to-face interview. And then the interview that I had via Zoom, because obviously we were in lockdown. So for the trust, they sent me an email, they're saying, this is your Zoom details and this is the time that we want you to log in. And then they gave me like a plan of what we will talk about beforehand in the email. So for my Zoom one, they said you will have a discussion period where we give you a birth emergency scenario. You will have to do a CTG, you will have to do medicine management, and then we'll just interview you formally. So they told me as well, step by step, of what the interview will entail. So I logged into my interview. It was 2 women. We introduced ourselves and all of that jazz. They congratulated me for finishing my degree, which was very, very nice. It was very, very sweet. Like, it was just very like, even though it was like, I did it in my room and they were at home as well. So it was very like informal, relaxed, and it was very chilled, very, very chilled, and they were so lovely, so lovely. So what did we start on? So we started with the birth emergencies. They gave me a scenario. They didn't tell me what the birth emergency was. So what they did is they gave me a scenario and they told me to identify the birth emergencies. So if I didn't identify the right one, it would have been a fail. So they gave me a birth emergency, something like, you're having a poor birth, the head is delivered but the shoulders are not delivered and the body takes time to come. Please identify the emergency and what you will do and how you manage it. So obviously that is a shoulder dystocia, so I said shoulder dystocia, and then I just said what I'll do with the shoulder dystocia, how I'll manage it, and all of that stuff, all of that good stuff. So I've done my shoulder dystocia. And then they asked me about PPH. This one, they told me what it was straight away. So they were like, okay, you have a woman and she's suffering from a PPH. How would you handle this emergency? So we then spoke about PPH. I told them how I would manage it, the medication I'll give, all of that good stuff, including documentation. Documentation is very important. Don't forget to include your documentation in every single scenario that you talk about. Documentation. So I even spoke about my documentation and all of that good stuff. Cool. It seemed okay. They hadn't, you know, ended the interview, so I then moved on to the next step. The next step, then they gave me a scenario, like, okay, no, via Zoom, they showed me a CTG trace. I think they had like a PowerPoint, so the screen changed and I just saw a CTG trace. So with the CTG trace, they said you grab yourself a pen and paper, read the trace, and this is the scenario. So they gave me a scenario. It was like a woman is on labor ward, she has thick neck, she's on a CTG, she has a spike in temperature. I'm trying to think what else happens. Her observations were fine, it was just the spike in temperature. What else? I think that was it. And then it was like, you know, how would you obviously manage it? So I said stuff like, you know, I read the CTG, I did my Dr. C bravado, which is what they want to see. I did my Dr. C bravado, and then I did, you know, my management. So she's got a spike in temperature. Are we querying sepsis? So I spoke about sepsis, if you know how I will manage that, or just all of that. So I basically took the scenario, took the CTG, and I worked with everything, noted everything down. After I noted everything down, they just asked me to read what I wrote and relay it back to them. So I did that. After I did that, the interview continued. After that, they then asked me another question. So I thought in my mind we're going to move on to medicine management, because medicine management was the other thing that I'll be tested on. But we didn't move to that. We moved to, they just asked me a question about what do you think, no, what is an S-bar? And I was like, it's like, is this a trick? Is this are you, like, what is an S-bar? It's like, yeah, what is an S-bar? And then I was like, I explained what an S-bar is, because obviously S-bar, everyone knows what an S-bar is. S-bar is very simple. It's like the basic of our practice. You know, the S-bar is what we use in our day-to-day work life. It's our, you know, handover tool. It's what we use. It's our situation, background, assessment, recommendation. So I explained all of that. I said why, I explained why we use it, why it's important, and all of that jazz. And they were like, okay, thank you. And then they were like, you know, we had like a little formal chat. They were like asking me about why I want to work there. They were asking me why I didn't want to stay at my trust. You know, they were just asking me like really basic questions, and then that was literally it. They said that they will get back to me. They said they had other interviews to conduct that day, so I had mine in the morning. They said they have other interviews to conduct today. They'll get back to me shortly with an answer. And I was like, okay, cool. I said thank you. I was very like polite, I was very smiley, very professional. I was like, even though I was in my room, I was dressed up, you know, very professional. I had my hair tied up, very professional. I looked very professional, even though I was sat in my room. So yeah, ended the Zoom. I think at 5 p.m. when they had finished their day of interviewing, I get a phone call, and they called me and they were like, oh, we really liked how you interviewed. They told me about the questions that I, you know, could have done better in. They also what's it called, they also told me about what I could have improved on. And then they were like, but you know, you really you interviewed well. We would love to have you as part of our team. We would like to offer you the job. So literally the same day after the interview, they called me and they were like, yeah, we would like to give you the job. And then that was basically it. And then they're like, you will get an email confirming, you know, your acceptance and all of that jazz. And then I was like, oh, thank you very much, you know, thank you for the opportunity. Don't ever forget to thank them for the opportunity, guys. Literally just thank them for the opportunity, whether you got the job or not. But yeah, that was literally my interview process. Without rambling on, I had to like cut it short because I don't want this video to be extremely long. Also guys, I forgot that when you go to the interview, also be prepared to ask them questions. So have some questions in your mind or written down that you can remember to ask them at the end, because they will ask you, they would say, have you got any questions for us? Is there something that you want to ask us? So if it'll be good and it will look good if you are asking them a question, because then you will look like you're interested, that you're, you know, you want to know more. So it's good to have a few questions, or even just one question ready when you go to the interview and they ask you, have you got any questions to ask us? I think one of the questions that I asked is I think I asked something about the preceptorship program. I think I asked, how long is your preceptorship program, or something like that. I asked something about the preceptorship program, but I don't remember what exactly. But you could ask something about the program, you could ask something about, I don't know, shift, you can ask something about the trust in general. Just make sure you have a question to ask them at the end when they ask if you have any questions to ask. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much like the process of actually getting a job, and how you would, you know, articulate yourself in an interview, how you would apply for the job itself. But one thing I must stress, like I must stress, is don't be too stressed out, or don't be too down if you do not get a job. There's other jobs out there, there's other, you know, you could apply to the same job another time when they, you know, are recruiting other people. It's not the end of the world when, you know, you don't get a call back or you don't get a job offer. Honestly, use that experience and learn from it. Use that feedback and learn from it. It'll only help you grow. Like, I've had, you know, rejections. I've had people saying, okay, you haven't been accepted, you know, you haven't been offered the job. Like, we've all been there. So one thing I would say is, do not, you know, take it to heart and be like, okay, why am I not getting the job? Even if it's like your first interview and you're like bummed that you didn't get it, there'll be others, there'll be other times, there'll be other opportunities. It just wasn't the right time for you, or it just maybe wasn't the right post for you. That's one thing that I would say. But yes, I hope this video has been helpful for you guys. I didn't want to make it too long, and I wanted to give you guys some little insight on how the whole, you know, getting a job process is. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free to drop me a comment, either send me a DM. Like, guys, I am here to answer all your questions. If there's loads of questions, I may do a part 2. But yeah, my DMs are open for whoever has, you know, questions. I'm happy to do that. But when it comes to reading over supporting statements and CVs, guys, please don't send me those, because I don't think I'll have the time to, for one, and I don't want to say I'm not an expert in reading like personal statements and all of that jazz, so I might not be the right person to do that. But I'm sure, you know, there's examples online, you know, you can have other people read through it and stuff like that. But with questions and all of that jazz, I'm free to answer it. Like, I'm your girl. Leave me a comment, send me a DM, anything you guys want to do. But yeah, I'll definitely see you guys in the next video. Until then, bye guys, and thank you for watching. All the best in getting a job.